And then all of your phones and gadgets are off.
Thank you for reminding me.
I only say that because I need that every now and then.
Yeah. Okay, that's down. And that's off.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So I will go ahead and introduce you, and then we'll go from there.
That's the way it works.
That's right. All right, here we go.
I like you already.
I like you too. All right, here we go. Hey, ladies, welcome to Empowered and Unapologetic. I am your host, Veronica Cisneros. Today's guest is next level. You are going to learn today. So make sure you grab your notepad and paper because you are going to take a whole bunch of notes. He is the founder of Udo's Choice and author of the book Fat That Heals, Fats That Kill, which has sold over 250,000 copies. As an acclaimed author and speaker, Udo has an 8-step process that takes into consideration all of the elements of nature and human nature, including physical health, mental health, presence, and awareness. You can see why he is on here because he is covering all of it. Life energy, being in harmony with nature and humanity. Udo's background includes studies in biochemistry, genetics, biology, and nutrition, as well as a master's degree in counseling psychology. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please, please, please welcome our guest, Udo Erasmus. Udo, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. Okay, so as a fellow clinician, you know, we're going to totally go there. I want to get an idea of, you know, your health, wellness, mental health. You're covering all of it. So right away, the therapist inside of me wants to go into what happened. Like what was this? So what happened in your life? What happened as a reflection of this? What happened to you? We'll go there.
Well, I was born in 1942 in Poland, which was in the middle of the Second World War. And I was not yet 3 when we were refugees fleeing in horse-drawn hay wagons, mothers with little children. The men were all at war or in prisoner of war camps or wherever.
Yeah.
And we were fleeing down dirt roads. The communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And there was no military presence on those roads, just refugees. There were dead horses and dead people in the ditches.
Wow.
And the Allies, you know, they're supposed to be the good guys.
Yeah.
They were using the refugees as target practice, shooting at us from planes.
Okay.
And you can imagine this is probably not a really good situation to bring in 2-year-old, to bring up 2-year-olds.
No.
So it was really chaotic. My mother had to eventually get off the road and walk through the fields. It was in winter. And she had 6 kids with her, 6 and younger.
Yeah.
And she could only handle 2 when she's walking because she's only got 2 hands. So she left 4 of us behind. And so we ended up in an orphanage and eventually we got reunited. But you can imagine, like, I think 2-year-old, like sort of in between 2 and 3-year-old is the most delicate age for kids.
Absolutely.
Because they're just getting to understand a little bit about the world and then it turns upside down, right? So what happened to me is I became very shy. I was never felt safe.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what I could rely on.
Nope.
I remember hunger. I remember anxiety. I remember fear, chaos, confusion. I was toilet trained and then I was told to go in my pants, you know, because they didn't have time to stop either to water the horses or feed the horses. You know, it was really crazy. I don't think you can imagine what it's like.
No,
if
right
you
now,
haven't been in a situation in the crossfire that happened there. So what happened is I got my nose rubbed in what happens when people don't cultivate peace and cooperation and harmony and friendship and all of the good things that people can do together. When they don't cultivate that in peacetime, when they have the luxury to do it, then guaranteed they're going to have conflicts and it's going to get worse and worse and they're heading towards war. And I think you can see it happen in the world now as well. It's one of the reasons why I talk about what I talk about, because I realized that on 9/11. Discontent people will always spread discontent. If those of us who think they know what contentment is, I'm one of those guys. If we don't do more to spread contentment than they do to spread discontent, guess where we're headed?
Yeah.
So when I was 6 years old, we were in Germany, reunited, and I was listening to adults argue, and it really bothered me. I was really sensitive, right, to it.
Well, absolutely.
And it occurred to me, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And then, like a 6-year-old who doesn't know how complicated everything is, I'm going to find out how. So that's been my driver all my life.
Wow.
And that's the long story about how I got to health, and then human nature, and then human nature and environment, because everything affects health.
Yes.
And a lot of it that we don't take into account is in us rather than between us. So in relationship, we think of them as between us. But if I'm not fully present in my own being, what am I bringing to the marriage? Yes. So my story that I wanted to tell you is, my marriage, how my marriage went. I saw her, never talked to her. I saw her, I saw the goddess. She was shining. I hadn't heard any of the words of her self-denial. They came later, right? Yeah. And she saw me the same way. And it was like, oh my God, there's my completion. And for her, it was like that too. Yeah. And she actually pursued me more than I pursued her.
Okay.
So she was really into it. But then somehow it didn't work. The moment that I said yes, the arguments began. Yeah. And I didn't realize until later what was missing was I was missing in the marriage. Yes. And from her perspective, she was missing in the marriage. Yes. Because I was missing from myself. I was not in touch with the peace that is an experience, that is the foundation of my existence. Yeah. And you have to go inward to reconnect to that foundation. I was not in touch with the unconditional love that life is and I am for the body. Yeah. Because I wasn't in touch with that. I didn't feel loved. And then I thought my love was going to come from her, and she thought her love was going to come from me. But she couldn't go in and find it to bring it into the marriage. And I couldn't go in to find it to bring it into the marriage. So then, in that situation, then you have to say, well, where the hell is the love going to come from if neither of you can get to it? So my conclusion was, I'm not ready for relationship. And I would say anybody is not ready for relationship until you have a solid relationship with your own life. And then you bring presence into the relationship. And then you can negotiate anything, because it's no longer a need. It's supposed to be based on love, but we base it on need. I need to feel fulfilled. She's going to fulfill me. Well, if she doesn't damn fulfill me, then what the hell? And there's and then it goes crazy. Yep. Right.
Well, that's a perfect recipe for resentment.
Yeah,
perfect recipe for
resentment.
Resentment.
Because I had expectation. I wanted her to do my homework for me. Yep. Fundamentally, is what it comes down to, right?
Absolutely.
I hadn't done my homework in that regard, being present in my own existence. And I expected her to do that for me. Of course, she can't.
No.
And she expected the same thing for me, and I can't. So we put an expectation on the marriage or on the relationship that the relationship cannot carry. No. And then surprise, surprise, 60% of relationships don't work. Yeah. So that was, it's so important to be present, to do a practice where you sit with yourself and discover your own, what it feels like to be alive. What it feels like in the space that your body occupies. There's not just liver and guts in there. There's also feeling. There's light there, and there's love there, and there's sensations there, and there's sound there, and you can listen. You can turn your senses inward to experience what life looks like, feels like, sounds like, even tastes like. And when you
for yourself,
and then you feel whole, and then you feel
right?
cared for. And when I feel cared for, the only thing left to do is help, because it's not about me anymore.
No.
Right?
No.
I'm cared for. So now, okay, good. I'm good. What needs to be done?
Yep.
Okay, I'll take out the garbage, no problem. Okay, I'll wash the dishes, no problem. Okay, I'll change the diapers, no problem. It's like, it's just about, then it's just practical. And but until I feel cared for, every transaction I have will have an element of, how is that going to take care of me? And if I can't see how it'll take care of me, I won't do it.
Yep.
Because the biggest drive in human being is to feel whole, is to feel whole again, because we felt whole in our mother's womb.
Yeah.
But then we got disconnected from it when we went out through our senses into the world to learn to survive physically in the world. But we didn't need to do that in the womb. Everything was taken care of, nowhere to go, nothing to do, just hang out in a little, I call it the Buddha tank, because you hang out in the light inside in your inner presence. And enlightenment is about going back there.
Absolutely.
So we're all little Buddhas hanging out in that safe space, right?
I appreciate you saying that. When I work with couples, that is usually what I will say in my first session. It's not about the marriage. If I focus just on the marriage, then I'm going to lose you both. However, if I help you identify who you are outside of the roles you play, if I help you identify who you are as a person, not as a father, not as a mother, a brother, a sister, a wife, none of those things. If I'm able to help you identify who you are as a person, well, then that's when all of the healing happens and change happens, because you no longer have that expectation on each other, to meet each other's needs. Instead, you're able to enjoy one another and love one another because you feel supported, protected, and understood.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. It is key.
And it's not easy because we don't really have cultural encouragement for self-knowledge.
No, not at all. Not at all. We're so busy.
But it's the most important thing in life, because that's what you bring.
Well,
that's what you are, and that's what you bring.
So think about it this way too, though. There's so many of us that want to be perceived a certain way. We want to be perceived as an exceptional mom. We want to be perceived as a loving, wife. And so
you're acting for a cultural image. Yeah.
And that's
instead of acting for life.
Yes. I'm glad you were able to make that transition. So you're 6 years old, you're in constant chaos. You're literally in war, constant chaos, which then now brings into that level of hypervigilance, right? Constantly aware of your surroundings. I can see why you went into, this sort of mute persona, trying to kind of take in as much information as possible to see who you can and can't trust.
Yeah. I read tons of books, because books are safe. You can read a book about war and nobody's shooting at you. Right?
Yes. And so trust, right? So trust during that time is very difficult, extremely difficult, because even the person that you thought you can trust the most, your mom, has left you.
Yeah. And when you can't find it outside, then one of the places where you can go to find it is inside, because something inside has taken perfect care of me 24/7 for now almost 79 years now, right? And has never misled me, never lied to me. And that's the nature of life. That's why foundation in life, foundation in awareness is so powerful.
So you were literally the father of fats. Like, you are the father of sexy health, right?
Yeah.
How did that happen? And so what I'm starting to hear is, like, there was so many things going on, to you. It sounds like you made this transition of, okay, I can't control everything outside, but I could for damn sure as hell control what's going inside. Can you tell me more about that?
That was part of it. And I do a practice. So the idea is, You take time every day, just like you do go take time for the toilet, and just like you take time for breakfast, and just like you take time for sleeping, and you take time for doing your job. You take time every day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours if you can. Take time to be as still as you can be and sit in that stillness and see how deep you can go into that stillness. And see how long you can stay there, because the mind is very active, right?
Yeah.
See how deep you can still, how long you can stay there. Breathe very lightly and slowly. And then be aware of what you see in that stillness, and what you hear in that stillness, and what you feel in that stillness.
Yeah.
And you will discover when, you know, and it takes time.
Yes.
It takes time because we're really good at going out.
Yep.
But we don't practice much going in. So it's kind of like learning to walk again. Right? You know, but don't never quit. You know, a kid doesn't say, walking's not for me. I just fell on my schnoz, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to walk. You know, that's for you guys. I'm not going to do it. No, they crawl and they fall, and they crawl and they fall, and they get up on one leg, and they fall, and they, you know, and they cry, and they get up, and they get up, and they get up, and eventually they're running around the block.
Yep.
Right? How long does that take? Maybe a year, 2 years. Depends on their developmental speed.
Yeah.
And this is like that too. If you don't see peace everywhere in the world, it means peace in you is not looking.
Oh, yes.
And it means that you need to go deeper and let peace do the looking. Because if you're angry, you're going to see a different world, and you're going to act different into the world. You're going to create enemies, and you're going to fight enemies that you've created, right? If you're fearful, then you're going to see danger that you've created in perfect peace.
Yep.
And then you're going to hide from the danger and try to protect yourself from it. So your state of being comes to expression automatically. So what is the best place to go to bring a state of being to expression? And there's got to be perfect peace and unconditional love that exists in your nature, whether you look at them or not, whether you feel them or not, whether you believe it or not. They're just part of your biology. So what happened to me? So I was already doing that, and my marriage ended.
Yes.
The one I just told you about. And I was pretty upset and kind of wanted to kill something.
Yeah.
There's a long story, you know, and I took a job as a pesticide sprayer. And so I sprayed pesticides very carelessly for 3 years, and I got poisoned by the pesticides. Thanks. You know, it's like a predictable outcome.
Yeah, yeah.
Carelessness plus stupidity equals bad deal. That's a formula. Right? And so I went to the doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poisoning?" She said, "Nothing." That was the best diagnosis I ever got, because it was like, oh my God, my health is my responsibility. But it really is my responsibility. It wasn't just a cute saying.
Yeah.
But the penny really dropped and said, okay, what do I need to do to heal myself?
Yes.
I had the background in biochemistry, and you know, so I went and looked in the journals on health and nutrition, disease and nutrition, because I knew the body is made out of food, water, air, and light. That's it. That's how nature makes bodies, right?
Yeah.
So I was looking at nutrition, particularly nutrition and health, nutrition and disease, got stuck on fats because they were really confusing and they were misrepresented and misunderstood. And then while this happened, I got poisoned in 1980. I was in the journals in 1981. 1981, it was established that omega-3s are essential nutrients, which means you can't make them, but you have to have them. So you have to bring them in from outside. If you don't get enough, your health goes down. You get deficiency symptoms. They are degenerative in nature. They get worse with time. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die. This is like really important building blocks that life needs to create your body. It knows how to do that, but you have to make sure that the building blocks land through your mouth in your body so that life can use them. And found out 99% of the population doesn't get enough omega-3s for optimum health. They're a nightmare to work with because they're super sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, and in heat. And every cell in the body needs them. So, out of that came, oh my God, we could help almost everybody by bringing, first of all, creating a way to make them with health in mind, so they're not damaged like industry damages the cooking oils. So they're not damaged, and that they're rich in omega-3s, and we bring them back and optimize them. There should be a lot of things that get better because every cell needs them, and 99% of the population doesn't get enough. And when that sort of came together, that observation came together in my head, it was like, oh my God, we could help so many people.
Yeah.
And I just got lit up like a firecracker. And then I had no business background, but huge enthusiasm. And it was like, I just found a purpose for my life, because I was doing other stuff and it was like, yeah, anybody can do that. Yeah, but what is my purpose? And my purpose was always, I want things to be better.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter on what level, in what way you do that, whether you bring flowers or you help old ladies across the street, or you come up with whatever, something on any level of your existence. You help people in the direction of peace, you help people in the direction of love, you help people to go inside and discover their own magnificence. So there's lots of ways you can help people, but this one was like, oh, this is big. And I was already feeling taken care of. And when I didn't feel cared for, I knew where to go, because that care for lives inside of me. And it's always there. Every time I go and look for it, it's there. And even if I'm not looking, it's taking care of me. So it was like, okay, well, all of a sudden I was open to doing whatever, the idea was, how can I make the biggest splash for good in one body, in one lifetime? And so then the projects became bigger, because it wasn't about how can I get myself taken care of?
Yeah.
It was like, how can I take care of the whole world in a way?
Yes.
Right. Because everybody could live their lives lit up, because the light's already inside everybody.
How did you do that?
But you have to look in instead of looking away from it.
Bingo.
How do you do what?
So that looking in, that's self-reflection.
Yeah.
That's the part a lot of people complain about. This is, I want to work out, but I don't have time. I want to eat right, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
I want to pursue this dream, but I don't have time to go back to school.
Yeah.
You had every single reason to clam up, put your head down, and just do what you're told, or continue life that same way, right? You could have went from that, you could have left that doctor's office and said, oh, okay, well, crap, shit. There's there's nothing to treat me. I'm screwed. This is just the way my life's going to be. There was this level of resilience in you. How did that happen? So
let me tell you what I left out. Okay, because I'm telling you that story. But what happened to me is, when I was 15, I had an experience where I was lying in bed, and I was just lying there. I wasn't doing anything. My parents were not religious, so I wasn't looking for, anything like that. My body was filled with light, and the realization in words came, I know that I'm not that well socially adjusted, because I was a loner and I spent a lot of time by myself reading books and stuff. But there's nothing wrong with me inside. That was really helpful. And then when I turned 17, I was at university by that time. I started feeling an ache in my heart, in my chest, like an uneasy, uncomfortable, longing, loneliness, a lot of words for it. I have 10 pages of words for that feeling.
Yeah.
Separated, isolated, loss, feeling of loss.
Uncertain.
Yeah, uncertain. And, sorrow, sadness, those feels in there. Depression sometimes is part of that too. Hopelessness.
Yes.
Something's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I started feeling that in my chest, and I couldn't shake it, because what we usually do, we feel it. Everybody, I don't know anybody who doesn't know what heartache is.
Yeah.
And we feel it, and we feel it in response to so many things. Grandma dies, the dog runs away, somebody betrays your trust. You something that you thought you were going to do falls through, and now you have some empty time.
Yeah.
And we feel it. And it's the same feeling in the same place with 100 triggers, with 1,000 triggers.
Yep.
And I didn't understand what it was, but I couldn't shake it, because I couldn't. What most people do is distract themselves from it, or blame it on somebody, or try to ignore it, deny it, or explain it away, cleverly explain it away. I couldn't do any of it, because I had already seen enough, given the war, and I'd met lots of rich people, and they weren't any happier than I was. So it wasn't, so the things that we distract ourselves into to try and, driven by this feeling, this is really our drive. I couldn't shake it anymore. And so I was going around with this feeling for like 13 years. And I didn't know what it was. And people said, don't dwell on it, it'll just make you crazy. I couldn't not dwell on it. It was always there. They said, why don't you get a job like your brother? And it was like, no, that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And then I met somebody who said basically what he said was, the peace you search for in the world is within you. And I can show you how to connect to it.
Oh, well, tell our listeners how to do it.
So that was, the first thing, so the starting point, when you get all of these questions and excuses and why we can't do what is, you're not at the starting point. Like addicts are famous for aching hearts, famous, right? Yeah. So they medicate it because they don't like it. It's uncomfortable. They don't want to feel it. And drugs feel better than no drugs in that case. So, and then they tell them, don't dwell on it. It'll just make you crazy. And I say, no. When you feel it,
process
sit with it. Sit with it.
Yes.
Be with it. Don't judge it. Feel it. It's a little uncomfortable. It might be pretty intense. You might cry. It's all okay. It will not hurt you. It will not kill you, because at less than a hair's breadth behind that heartache is your wholeness.
Yes.
And so you got to sit still with it in order to drop behind it. That's really the process. It's kind of like, somebody says, okay, I want to win the 1,000-meter Olympic race, but I'm damned if you're going to get my feet in those frickin' starting blocks, right? Yeah. I'm going to win the race, but I'm not going to go to the starting point. Well, you can't do the race if you don't, you can't do a journey if you don't know where you are and acknowledge where you are and are clear about where you want to end up. Yep. So peace is the end up, and heartache is the starting point.
Yes.
And heartache, because of that, and it's intense, and it will not let you go, not till you're 70, not 80, not 90, not till you die, unless you be with it. And every time something on the outside ends, you feel that feeling of loss. But the feeling of loss is actually the feeling of your loss of your connection to the core of your own existence, which happened after you were born, when your senses went out to get to know the world.
If I can interrupt you for one quick second, that part right there, if you allow yourself to feel it, if you allow yourself to process it and not run from it, like you mentioned, that's the start of that journey. A lot of people don't trust that they are capable of withstanding that pain. They don't trust it. They don't trust that they're capable of sitting in it and processing it. Hence the reason why they avoid, distract, or explain it away. Right.
But when they tell themselves they can't handle it, that's just their head talking.
Yes.
That's BS.
Yep.
Right? Because you felt that many times and you're still alive.
Yes.
Right?
And you're prolonging, and all you're doing is prolonging the process. I mean, either way, it has to get done.
You're putting off the journey.
Bingo.
Yeah, you're putting off the journey, and the journey is to your magnificence. Like the unconditional love in your life. It's basically your life is solar energy. Right? Solar energy shines on green leaves and and excites electrons, and then they form bonds between atoms to make molecules. Those become your food molecules. You eat them, you break them down, the solar energy is released. That's your life.
Yeah.
That's the objective science view.
Yeah.
If you sit and you in a dark room and you close your eyes and you sit really quietly and look into what you can see, first you'll see darkness. If you go deeper into the darkness, you will discover the light. That is the solar energy. That is who you are. And that is the light that all of the great masters talked about.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Buddha called it enlightenment, which was mean enlightenment, which means lit up from within. Mm-hmm. Right? Or if your eye is single, and that means inside.
Inside, yep.
Your body will be filled with light.
Absolutely.
You are that light. People sometimes I say, hey, whose body is that? I pointed you. Say, whose body is that? What's your answer?
Yeah. It's mine, damn it.
It's mine, damn it. Yeah. And do you know what you've just done?
I owned it. It's mine.
Well, no, yeah, that's good. But you've done something else. You busted yourself.
How so? Take me there.
Because you've just told me that you are not the body. You've just told me you own the body.
Oh.
So then the question is, well, who are you who owns the body?
I love that. Tell me more. Tell me more. Teach me.
You are life. Life weighs nothing and runs everything. Life knows everything about your body, so it's omniscient. If you're Catholic, you know what that means, right? Omniscient. It is omnipotent. It is all power in you, and it is all knowing. Omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent.
Oh.
And that's a definition of God. The light in you is the divine.
Wow.
And when all of the religions, or let's say all the masters after whom the religions were named.
Yeah.
Because the religions have twisted the message big time. They all said, you all have what I have. If you do what I do, you will experience what I experience. And if you want to experience the experience of master in you, you got to be in touch with life. Life is that power. Life is that knowledge. Life is that light. Life is that sound.
So how would you answer that question?
Which question?
The question is,
who am I?
Who's the owner of your body, or what was your question?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Whose body is that? It's my body. It's my body, and that's correct. It's just that I understand that I am not the body. I am life. I am the owner of the body, weigh nothing, run everything, know everything about the body. And then what you do is, if you want to know who you are, then you have to take time to get closer into that energy.
That's the exact answer, Udo. That's the exact answer I meant to say.
Yeah. And in that energy is your wisdom, is your insight, is your intuition, is your purpose.
Yes.
Because the life, that energy is unconditional love. When I get into that energy, I feel unconditionally loved. That's why I'm now free to do something and not immediately need something back. Yeah. I've just gotten out of the world of horse trades and gotten into the world of giving. Until I feel whole, I will always take in my giving.
Yeah.
And when I feel whole, I don't need to take in my giving, because giving is our nature from that place.
Gosh, I wish that was taught to us. I wish that was taught to us before we got married.
It's well,
right.
But it wasn't, so we can learn it now, right?
Well, yeah.
So so I and just like it is the sun's nature to shine, it is our nature to shine our state of being.
Yeah.
And if my state of being is that love or the peace behind it, then I become an influence automatically in that direction in my world. State of being is so important. If my state of being is angry, I'll just wreck shit.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You can't but have that come to expression. So whatever, wherever, if I'm my heart is aching, then that's what I bring into the world.
Yeah. And you mentioned that in the beginning. You mentioned, that it kind of goes along the saying of hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
That's exactly. So true.
Yeah.
I remember in the beginning of my marriage, I didn't know that. There was zero self-reflection. I wasn't taught it. I wasn't taught. To be honest, not even in grad school was I taught about self-reflection. I was taught how to do it with a client. I was taught about countertransference, and all of those other beautiful, lovely mental health terms. However, it wasn't until I was sitting across from my patients in group or even one-on-one, that's when the self-discovery really, truly happened. That's when it was like, wait a minute, I can identify with my client. Mm-hmm. I can understand. There was this level of empathy. Mm-hmm. And then with that, I would go home and I would process it. Wait a minute, I might not have been as severe as, where their current symptoms are at, might not have been diagnosed with a similar diagnoses. However, I felt that pain. Mm-hmm. I felt that anguish. Mm-hmm. And I remember, allowing myself to really put that guard down. And yes, okay, so what? I'm supposed to show up as the expert. But that's not working. I'm not connecting with my patients. I'm not connecting with my clients. So instead, let me show up as Veronica, a flawed human being that is willing to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And let me connect with that emotion that I used to run away from. Let me connect with that little girl inside of me. Let me connect with everything I ever feared. And let me lean in a little bit. Let me actually lean in and challenge those insecurities. Mm-hmm. And it was then that I realized, holy shit. Not only am I way more successful in my career, but it feels different. Like my whole state of being, it's not letting the small shit affect me. And the way I'm connecting with my husband, the way I'm connecting with my kids, it hurts. It's uncomfortable. However, it's so freaking worth it.
Yeah. And behind, I got to a point where I realized I was pretty insecure. Yes. And I felt like rather than cover it up, I'd like to feel it. And then I got into feeling the insecurity, and I realized just behind the insecurity, I feel completely secure.
Yeah.
My life is not insecure.
No.
My head trip is insecure.
Yes.
Somebody told me something, or I told myself something. I say like, oh yeah, I always can't do this, and I'm not good at that. And yeah, you know what? Maybe you just haven't practiced.
Yep.
Right. And so it becomes so easy. The other thing is that within every human being, no matter what their trip is, what their state is, what their problem is, what stuff they've got going in their head, the peace in them, the wholeness in them, the unconditional love in them is not affected by the problem. So it would be a good idea to say to somebody who's got problems, okay, give your problems the attention they need.
Yep.
Maybe you need to do something. Maybe you need to change something. Maybe there's work to do. But give equal time to the fact that there's nothing wrong with you, to the fact that you're magnificent, to the fact that you're unconditionally loved and unconditional love.
Yeah.
That your source is peace, just like the universe's source is peace. Yes. You're a mini universe in your being that is a reflection of the big universe.
Yep.
Right. And that everything that you do and everything you think actually takes place in a sphere of perfect contentment and perfect peace. Even warriors on the battlefield, peace is inside of them from top to bottom, not just like a little part of their head, completely in their being, on both sides. And the peace is between them, and the peace is around them, and the peace is above them and below them.
Bingo.
But their focus is not on the peace. Their
Yeah.
focus is on an idea. You're my enemy. I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
And the other guy saying, no, you're my enemy. I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
Right. And so in a place of perfect peace, they have their battle where they kill each other. Now, if their focus was the peace in their own being, they would probably put down their weapons, share lunch, and ask how they could help make your kids' life better, make your family life better. What way can I help you?
Yeah.
Because I have peace. I actually have everything and more than everything.
Let me ask you a question. This ties into a question that I ask all of my guests. I'm going to ask it a little differently. So there's two questions. The first question is, what are you doing right now to live the life you want to live? And I'm really curious on how you're going to answer this.
I'm living it.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. Yes. People say sometimes, well, if you didn't have to work, and if this and if that, you know what? I'm living it. I'm doing it. Yeah. I don't need a change. If I won the lottery today, nothing would change, except I'd be giving away some lottery money, or something, right? But I'm not from this place. There isn't, oh, I got to have this and oh, I got to have that, because all the things we chase on the outside always have the conscious, subconscious, or unconscious hope that when I succeed, when I accomplish what I've decided I want, then I will feel right again. I'll feel whole again. I feel okay again. I will, whatever it is that I feel that's not right, that will get taken care of it. But I've talked to billionaires who are not happy. And had this conversation and said, let me tell you how your life goes. I mean, I tell them how their life goes. You feel discontent and you decide that you're going to do some really big thing. And the hope is that when you've accomplished that really big thing, then you're going to feel okay again. And so then you spend you plan the thing and you do it. And it's sometimes you spend 10 years or 20 years working it, building it to accomplishment. And then when you accomplish it, then you have 3 days where you say, yay, I did it. And on the fourth day, you're depressed. The guy said to me, well, I wouldn't call it depressed. I would call it let down. Okay, quibble with words, right? So feel let down. And then I said, and then you figure out, well, maybe I didn't think big enough, or I didn't think in the right direction. So you either change direction, or you say, well, if I build 5 airports, then I'll be happy, because I only built 1. That's the guy had an airport named after him, right? And he was like the incredibly accomplished guy. And he said, and there's still something missing. And I said, the mistake you make is that you think that you can fix what's broken on the inside, or disconnected on the inside, or lost on the inside by something that you gain on the outside. But the truth is, the disconnect that happened on the inside, that is part of every human being's journey in getting to know the world. They start from being present inside, absent outside. Then they end up absent outside, present outside, absent inside. And that disconnect is where heartache begins. And to fix that disconnect, you have to bring your focus of awareness back inside to its source, in life, in your body, inside.
You just described all of my therapy sessions. You described every single one that when I'm with my clients, that's exactly where we go. The last question I have. What advice would you give to the mom who feels stressed with her kids and disconnected with her husband?
Exactly the same. The problem is not them. The problem is you.
Oh, yes. Can you please repeat that for the people in the cheap seats?
Yeah. The problem is them. And that's not a judgment. That's an observation, because the problem with you, because if you were in unconditional love and peace, and we're all works in progress, it's a tall order. But why not reach for the tall order? Why not say, I want to have the experience that the masters had, that made them so wise and so lovable and so powerful and so able to heal? Why not aim for that? And you're not going to be there, and then you fall down, and then you learn something, and then you go back to it, and then you fall down and you learn something.
Yep.
And next thing you know, you feel it pretty good all the time.
Yep.
But the work is home. The work in marriage and in raising kids is homework.
Yes.
A lot of people thought if they had kids, they'd be happy, or if they got married, they'd be happy.
Nope.
No, you get happy from being happy, and happiness is built into you, and you have to crawl inside for it. And then you get an unconditional happiness just because it's there. So you don't have to have an excuse to be happy. You're happy because you can, and because you decide you want to, and you decide to go there, right? Bingo. And then the other happinesses are all much smaller and conditional happinesses, because some people say, I'll be happy when everybody loves me. Well, good luck on that one.
Yep.
Right? You're not going to be happy much. What if you say, I'm going to be happy no matter what? Oh, that's actually possible, because that exists within you as a state of being. So you don't even have to talk yourself into reframing all of your mind chatter. You actually just have to walk from it to a deeper place, more in your chest, more in your body than in your mind.
Udo,
yeah,
I can be on here all day. All day. You are amazing. Amazing. So where can the audience find you? Because I know these women are going to be all over. Right. All over.
Yeah, UdoErasmus.com or the Udo, THEUDO.com.
Okay.
And we have some educational stuff and some courses there. And we're just building that.
Okay.
The second one is called udoschoice.com, UDOS choice.com. That's where I talk about all of the products that I've developed that we never talked about.
We could do another one.
Yeah, let's do another one.
We could totally do another one.
It's fun to do that. Yeah. But I think I like this particular conversation because it is the most important not had conversation on the planet.
Yeah.
And if 8 billion people have this conversation, it will change the planet. And we will begin to do what we're not doing in environment and politics and relationships and health.
Yeah.
Because it's our foundation that we need to get connected to again.
Yeah. Well, you put two therapists in the room, and this is what you
yeah. And then danger. No, and then I have a YouTube channel, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. I'm not hard to find. I'm around quite a bit. So
all right, we will definitely include all of that in the show notes. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on here with us.
All right, thank you. I thank you for being so well, first of all, you're an amplifier for a message. So I totally appreciate that. But also, in order for 8 billion people to live lit up from within, 8 billion people need to hear it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're open to it and we can have this conversation is awesome.
Thank you.
You are awesome. And you're not your body.
Not my body. Look at that. I'm learning. I will learn until the day I die.
And being is more important than doing, because you can be without doing, but you can't do without being.
Absolutely.
So we're supposed to be human beings. We've become human doings. That's another way of thinking about return to self.
Boom. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.